Good afternoon. I'm Mark Allen with Gaper, and I'm here today with Paiman Samadi, the CEO of Eino. I hope I got that right. Did I?
Yes, hi Mark. This is Payman, CEO founder of Eino.
How you doing today?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm good. So to start with, can you share a brief background of yourself and your work experience?
Of course. So I have more of an academic background. After I got my undergrad in electrical engineering, I worked in a consulting firm as an engineer for about a year. Then I went back to grad school and basically did my master's PhD in electrical engineering and focused more on the telecommunication side. Graduated from McGill University. After that, I worked about 3 years in a software company doing network simulation. Then I missed kind of doing research. So I got back to university. I was at Columbia University for about 4 years, which I was doing research on network optimization. And during that time, I realized that I would like to start this kind of entrepreneurial experience and go towards commercializing some of the ideas that I had and some of the research that I had. So started Eino about 2.5 years ago, and that's where I am now.
Wow, very interesting. So what has been your experience with remote employment, both as an employee and an employer?
Sure. So in our company as a startup, we definitely had the experience of remote because we're looking for talents with specific expertise and costs. So we end up working with people all across the world, people in Europe, all across the United States, also in Asia. So we had our core team in New York City, but we were working remote with people, as I mentioned, and we did have that experience. I personally was thinking that the company should be all sitting next together in one office, especially as a startup, and working together. But COVID and starting this remote working really changed my mind towards that. And I, as much as I think it's very good for people to be next to each other and work together. I think if you have the right team, if you have the right people, definitely remote works. I think the idea of everyone at 9 a.m., get into the public transportation or their cars to go to somewhere to work and come back at 5 o'clock is a little bit outdated and it's not really efficient and realistic. And I think, I got this realization that, remote is working well. Currently, we are remote. There are about 6 people working with us that are everywhere. And if we are able to kind of make it happen, we would like to stay remote as long as possible.
So do you actually have an office in New York?
Yes, we had an office in Chelsea, New York at Alley Space, which was a great office, great people. And, there were a couple of startups there as well. It's good in terms of, meeting people and everything. I still think the social side of having an office is quite important, and it's necessary. But I think the whole concept of working from anywhere, rather than calling it remote, is quite important. That people, as long as they do their job, and if they feel like one day they need to work from the office, they could work from the office. If one day they want to work from home or somewhere else, they should be able to do that. And if you have the right team and right people who have the right motivation, I think that's definitely possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree on that. It's interesting. I think, especially people that have small kids, they sometimes do need to get to an office so that they can actually concentrate on their job.
Yeah, certainly. Also, in New York City, we have small apartments, and
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to be inside the apartment the whole time. You cannot work in a coffee shop because there's noise and everything. So definitely the office is helpful and it's good, and you learn a lot by being around people and talk to them. Sometimes you go get a coffee and you have a 5-minute conversation, and it's an amazing conversation. So I think there are a lot of benefits, but forcing people to be somewhere 8 a.m., 9 a.m. till 5, 6 p.m., I have realized is not a really smart idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very interesting. So what do you think is the future of remote employment? I think you've already touched on that with the work from anywhere. And what do you think could be done differently to make it more effective?
Yeah, definitely there are some tools that needs to be used to make it more efficient, but also I think companies themselves need to come up with some sort of workflows to be able to pull that remote work in an efficient way. Depending on the team is different. I mean, engineering teams are kind of used to this type of remote work because even small, large companies always have people around the world. So in terms of how to set up their meetings, how to set up their job distribution, how to basically communicate using through different tools like Slack, email, you know, you need to find what works for your company and for your team. I don't think there is like one recipe that would work for everyone. And that would take time and some trial and error. And depending even on the stage of the company, it would change. For us, basically, we use Slack, we use project management tools, we use Zoom, email, and sometimes even text message because you want to get something fast. And it is working. I mean, definitely there are some problems because, okay, you go on Slack and you scale and then you send a message and it's like, oh, what channel you send me? Did you specify my name or not? And then it's understandable, but in real office, we just go see that person and say, hey, what's up?
Right.
So these things has to be come up, but I think many people can work more efficient. They could basically take care of themselves in a better way in terms of food, in terms of exercise, in terms of time with family. And that would make them, do their job in a much more efficient and better way. So I see definitely benefits in the remote side.
Well, what is the story behind Eino and what's the journey been like? What is your product? Who do you deal with? All those things.
Sure. So our company works in the area of machine learning, AI, and big data. And our basically mission is about how we could plan more efficiently our resources specifically in cities and urban areas. The market that we have focused on as our first use case is in the telecommunication and how in long term we plan our mobile network. So to give you a little bit of background, every mobile operator needs to continuously add more capacity to their network because every year there's about 30-40% increase in the amount of data usage. And the capital that they need to spend to make that happen, it's a large capital. Let's say for a company like Verizon, AT&T, it's a few $1 billion every year. And the capital is becoming more and more expensive. So they need to be efficient in terms of when they put a capacity somewhere, they know it's going to be used in the right place, right time, and right amount of capacity. However, on the operational side, it's a hard job. It's a lot of permits. It's a lot of complexity in putting the capacity. So they need to plan it way ahead, about 12 months, 18 months, sometimes 24 months ahead. So everything's based on some forecast. And, COVID happened. Who could have forecasted that the traffic's going to change from, major cities to suburban areas? Nobody knew that. So we have a piece of software that helps them to accurately forecast how the traffic is going to evolve in different areas in a very high resolution and granular way in the next 2-3 years. And based on that, where they need to add more capacity and where they need to get more spectrum and make sure that they're not too early or too late to add that capacity. And the story behind the company, we started first with some technology about more of optimizing the network, not in the long term, more in the short term. So we were kind of forecasting where the traffic is going to be, and based on that, how we could optimize the backbone of internet to be more efficient way. However, we realized as a startup, it's very hard to gain the trust of operators to manipulate any network. You have to be in the size of Cisco to be able to even talk about it. But we saw a lot of interest on the forecasting side. That part of technology was more interesting, and we realized that the problem of long term is becoming it's a bigger problem rather than short term, because in 4G networks there's not a lot of optimization you could do. 5G you have that, with 4G not. So we did a pivot and kind of focused more on the side of how we could use the forecasting side of our technology to help operators plan their network in a more efficient way.
Wow, that's some complex stuff. Do you actually get to the level of where to put towers and things like that, or?
In the mature markets, about 95% of the towers are already there, and you add more capacity to that tower.
Okay.
Maybe there's only 5% there, but in some other markets that you have more greenfield, it's more about like where to add that new tower. Our focus is at the moment more mature markets, so most of the time is about, okay, from this 100,000 cell site locations that I already have, which one I need to add more capacity, more frequency band, and yeah, that's kind of the problem we're solving.
Very interesting. So it sounds like before COVID, you were mainly a the New York people came into the office, but you had other people that work remotely, correct? So how did you incorporate the idea of remote at your company at first?
So as I said, yeah, we had 3-4 people in our main office in New York City, and then there were individuals in Canada, in Germany, in Los Angeles, and San Francisco that we were working with. And so we were kind of used to these type of remote work. And as myself as a founder, I was doing a lot of traveling to talk to the customers, to talk to the investors. So we already had some kind of practice of doing these kind of remote conversations, remote decision making, remote meetings all together. So once the COVID started happening, we kind of knew that this is going to be somehow long term. So having kind of the people who were in New York end up to be kind of like the people that they were in Germany or they were in San Francisco. So it was not a big change. Definitely, I missed the parts that, we had lunch together or we had coffee together. Or we're just chatting, for, 15 minutes about something, which kind of you could do it with Zoom, but it's not the same. But for us, because we were a small operation, we were half like remote and in the office, it was not a big challenge. At the moment, we are hiring new people. So I think kind of that opened our horizon that we don't have to hire someone in New York City. We could hire someone in Texas, and that's fine. Or we could even hire someone in Toronto, in Canada, and that's fine. And we even did that. Like we got a contractor in Toronto, which was an amazing experience working with her. Currently, we are talking to a few people inside the United States to hire as a full-time employee. And it opened out the pool of basically talents for finding the next person to join us.
Well, very good. So the current situation, which we're all going through again, I mean, California just announced they're shutting down again, starting actually last Sunday. Everyone was forced to go remote in mid-March. You already were kind of that, but I'm wondering, did that cause any roadblocks or challenges for you or some of your customers, which I would assume were pretty challenging?
I would say the biggest challenge for us on the remote side was on the customer side. Because we do very large enterprise, B2B enterprise sales, which is quite complex and it requires a lot of meetings, a lot of trust, a lot of understanding. And you always start them with, Zoom calls and phone conversations, but you definitely want to meet these people in person, talk to them. So it was interesting. The Sunday that they announced in March, I think the second or first week of March, that everything's locked down. I was in Canada on that Friday, and I had 2 meetings with 2 different potential customers and partners that we're working on, and definitely that played a big part for our relationship. That they saw me as one company, they saw me in person for the first time, and now we have that ongoing conversation and kind of partnership now, which was helpful. I would say that the biggest challenge is on the customer side for us, but everyone's have understood that, and they've realized that you need to change, you need to accept the new realities and start trusting people just by seeing them on on Zoom. We're not looking much for the investment side, but I talk to a lot of investors. They also tell us the same thing, that, okay, we want to spend, some amount of money on a company. I want to invest some money on some company. We would love to see the person, talk to them, see the feelings and the chemistry. But, that's a new world. So that's the way it is.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, how it goes back now that people have adapted, now let's just say all of a sudden traveling is not an issue or going out to dinner. It'll be interesting to see, well, I really don't have to do that. Right.
yeah. That's true. Yeah, I mean, I talked to a lot of friends and colleagues, and they all telling me, to be honest, I don't want to go back to the office every day, 8 a.m., 9 a.m. till whenever, like from tomorrow. I don't want that. So I'm quite happy with the situation. I like to have the option to go there, whenever I want to, but I don't want to be forced to do that anymore.
Yeah, no, and especially in cities like New York and San Francisco. I mean, there's a noticeable difference in the traffic here. It's amazing. I mean, I went across the San Mateo Bridge last Friday at 5 o'clock, and that would have taken minimum an hour and a half before. And I literally got to my destination in the time that Google Maps said it would take.
I mean, Bay Bridge, 5:30 a.m. in the morning, you get stuck, and you're asking yourself why? Like, why we are wasting so much time, energy, resources, just because that's the definition of work. We could just change our perception, and then problem solved.
Right, and
And
it was
everyone's happy.
it was forced upon us on March 16th.
No, it's the nature in the world is so the interesting that once we as humans don't realize the way we should live, either the nature kind of forces us to us, and we either survive and learn how to adjust ourselves, and no, we kind of get extinct. And
Yeah.
that's how it is. And pandemics is well, unfortunately still is a big problem, and it's devastating. 500,000 people died, a lot of people lost their jobs, a lot of problem in the financial side, on mental side. But I think there were some things that we could get and learn from it that was very positive in terms of what was the status quo in terms of working, in terms of the way I was doing my job, or even the job that I had, and was this the best thing for me? And I talked to a lot of friends, people, and they all telling me that this time that I was home by myself, or just being there, made me really think to understand that, was this the best I could live, or maybe there's a better way to live. And it was quite fascinating that many people start thinking about all this, including myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting, because my son was in Manhattan, and he has since moved back with me, and now he's actually looking at not just the U.S., but where in the world do I want to live? I mean, we actually had that discussion last night. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah, also, like, is this really what I want to do in my life?
Right.
Yeah. Because and it's interesting. Like, many people lost their jobs, and I think one way it's devastating. It's awful. I don't want to just say that it's not. But one other side is, maybe we could look at it that's another opportunity to think, like, what else I could do.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the best thing for me. Maybe this is an opportunity to find whatever I feel much more comfortable, better about myself, about my life, and all other things. And I've seen and heard about many people thinking that way, which is very inspiring.
Yes, it is. So finally, there are companies like Gabriel that help develop, build, and scale products, especially for startups. How important do you think that'll be going forward? Like, you've already mentioned it, that you need to, when you get projects, you need to hire people, but you need to hire the right people. And generally, you need to hire them pretty quickly. You can't go through that 6-month cycle anymore. So how important do you think that will be going forward?
I think hiring is definitely one of the hardest things. I mean, before pandemics, it was hard in one sense that because the unemployment rate was so down, and the payments were like the salaries were so high for a small startup, it was very hard to find the right balance of talent and kind of compensation. Now it's hard because there's so many people applying, and finding the right person through like 200 resumes that you get, and you cannot really see them, so you have to make the decision online and everything. Is this the right decision? It is hard, and this is always fascinating for me, that even though there are tons of companies, tons of startups, old school, new ones, that are trying to solve this HR problem, it is still a very big problem. We put a job posting on LinkedIn, and I would say certain number of people applied, and then half of that size were recruiters who kind of contacted me to help me to fill that position. It's just quite interesting, like that number. And it is hard. I think we need some kind of people who think outside the box, come up with new solutions. to better, you know, screen people, better kind of understand their mindset, their mentality, maybe some sort of, you know, ways of evaluations that, you know, you could learn things that you couldn't learn now that, you know, you cannot meet them in person, and help it make it faster. But I do agree, like, hiring is a very hard problem, and it is something that it's one of the things that we all constantly want to hire, but finding the right person is it's quite hard. Now there's more bigger pool, but I would say still it hasn't become easy.
Right. I don't think it will ever become easy. It can become easier.
Yeah.
And more streamlined. Yes. So, well, Payman, I forget. Pardon me? Payman. There, that was it. Okay. I want to thank you for your time today. This has been very informative, and good luck with Eino. I think you got a pretty good product there. I think the telecoms will definitely benefit from it, especially in today's environment.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me here, and interesting conversation. And yeah, wish you all the best.
All right. Have a great day.
Thanks.